Good morning, everyone in the chamber and everyone online. Welcome to this full council Tuesday, the 15th of April, 2025. Could I start the agenda with declarations of interest, please? I have a minor interest in item 9, and so will not chair that item. Moving on. But I would just like confirmation that that is correct from the monitoring officer, please.
Morning, members. Yeah, so it's correct that it's a minor interest. You're right to declare it. I am minded to provide a dispensation if it saves the choracy on that item. How many members are present? Is there 8 in total?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you were minded to ask me for a dispensation for that item, I would be minded to provide a dispensation so that business could be transacted.
Thank you very much. I've been minded to check with Councillor Watt if he would be prepared to chair that item, and he is. I would suggest that I remain in the chamber if that is agreeable to you.
That's agreeable to me. You can remain in the chamber if Councillor Watt chairs that item, and it's a matter for you whether or not you vote. Obviously, you can abstain if you feel that's more appropriate.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your advice. So if we could now move on to agenda item 2, the minutes of the previous meeting on pages 1 to 20 of your papers, members. Would anyone like to raise any issues of factual accuracy with those minutes, please? In that case, would anyone like to propose that we confirm?
Fran, I'm online. If I may make a comment. Fran, can you hear me?
Yes.
Councillor Glottic?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't have the apologies. I'm at Land's End Airport, so I'm a little bit limited with I don't have the minutes in front of me, but there was a statement that I made a harrowing comment within the minutes. Can I just clarify whether the word harrowing was actually in the recording, please?
Would you like me to come in, Chair?
Yes, please. I would be grateful.
So I did check the minutes against the recording, and my understanding is that is accurate.
Are you happy to accept that, Councillor Peacock?
Yeah, I'm happy to accept.
Thank you. Moving on then, can we confirm as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of March 2025? Would someone like to propose that, please? Thank you, Councillor Dean. Is there a seconder for that proposal? Councillor Sims. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to Chairman's announcements. I do have one. I would just like to remind members that we're still in the pre-election period, and that therefore the pre-election period restrictions as set out in the monitoring officer's advice circulated to all members on the 17th of February and the 25th of March 2025 should be adhered to during this meeting. The meeting will be recorded but will not be published until after the close of polls on the 1st of May 2025. I would also like, on behalf of the Chair and all colleagues, to thank Councillor Steve Watt very much for his period as a councillor, and also comment that the Council looks forward to welcoming its new members at the annual general meeting on the 20th of May 2025. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 4 and the considerations of any questions received under Standing Order 14, we have none. Agenda item 5, the consideration of any motions received in accordance with Standing Order 12, we have none. And item 6, to receive draft minutes from committees for information only. We have none today. Urgent items considered urgent by the chairman. We have none today. So we now move to part 1 reports, and the first planning application P25008 FUL, land to the north of Enna Farm, Old Town, on pages 21 of your papers. Handing over to the Chief Planning Officer, Lisa Walton.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. So just a correction, this is actually planning application. It's titled incorrectly, so my apologies for that. It should read P25010/COU, and it is the land to the north of Enna Farm, so the report content is correct. Also, just to confirm that Natural England have no objections to the proposed temporary use following a reconsultation. And this is on the basis that the proposed development is carried out in accordance with the plans submitted and the further information provided by the applicant. Natural England considers that there will not be a significant adverse impact on any of the designated sites, which includes the SSSI, the SAC and the SP8 and Ramsar. And specifically, the application will not damage or destroy the features for which the Lower Moors SSSI has been notified, and therefore they have no objections. So this is brought to full council because the council own this land. The proposal is a temporary change of use of the 0.53 hectare field north of Enna Farm on Old Town to accommodate 24 portable single sleeper units known as bunker bins for up to 6 months. This is intended to house contractors working on the Integrated Health and Social Care Facility project. As you're aware, the site is located within the Isles of Scilly National Landscape and Heritage Coast and falls within the conservation area. Part of the site falls within flood-prone land and near the Lower Moors SSSI. The site has an existing outline planning permission for 12 self-built homes. And the key considerations have been the temporary nature of the proposal and its necessity to support essential healthcare infrastructure, its proximity to the hospital, facilitating easy access for contractors, measures to minimise the environmental impact, such as use of timber pads for the units to reduce ground compaction and storing topsoil for site restoration post-use, and the potential impacts on the surrounding landscape, heritage assets and nearby residential properties. As you'll note from the report, it is recommended for approval subject to the conditions outlined in Appendix A. And thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Marcus.
Yeah, it's good to see this report. It's obviously a bit disappointed about timing, but considering that Natural England are now happy with the application, is everything resolved with the highways issues raised as well, Lisa?
Yeah, because it's a temporary use, we don't have any particular issues with the drainage. They've confirmed minimal vehicles will be accessing the site for the contract staff down there. So it is just the comings and goings, and mainly by foot.
Okay. Fine. I've got no other questions about it, so I'm going to propose the recommendations.
Thank you. Councillor Sims.
Yeah, I'm happy to second them. I'm assuming this is retrospective because they seem to be there already.
It wasn't at the time the application was valid. I do understand some groundworks have started, but yeah, at the time it was valid, and at the time I did my site visit, it hadn't commenced.
Anyway, yeah, irrespective of whether it's retrospective or not, we need them, and I'm happy to second.
Thank you. Right, if we can then take the recommendation. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, Councillor Legg, I didn't notice your line.
Well, I understand that either it's in progress or already has been set up, but I was just a little concerned that the waste tanks are as far from access as possible, and yet they talk about being emptied regularly, and I just was slightly concerned about vehicles having to drive over potentially wet, boggy ground to get to them, and that causing problems. But I mean, that's not really a planning consideration, more just an observation.
Would you like to ask the planning officer to comment, or is that just an aside, if you like?
I suppose it's just an aside, but from a planning perspective, is the siting of the tanks. I want to make sure that someone's thought about the fact that they've put them as far away from the access as possible.
I don't have an answer to that, I'm afraid, Councillor Legg, sorry.
No, that's fair enough. I just wanted to point it out for my own peace of mind, really.
Any other comments, colleagues? Shall we move to the recommendations then, please? That members delegate to the Chief Planning Officer the granting of planning permission for the reasons set out in the report, pending a no objection response from the Natural England and subject to the conditions set out in Appendix A, and any minor amendments to these or other conditions required to address any final comments from Natural England. And recommendation 2, which I will take together, that members delegate to the Chief Planning Officer any other minor changes required to the conditions set out in Appendix A. I believe, Councillor Marcus, you were comfortable to support that recommendation. Councillor Sims, I believe you seconded it. In that case, please, can we have a vote? All those in favour of the recommendations, please. That's unanimous. Thank you. I would like to propose that for agenda item 9, Councillor Watt chairs the item. Please could I have a seconder for this? Councillor Marcus, thank you. And a vote? Thank you. I'll hand over to Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Chairman. This is item 8, disposal of plots 19 and 20, Porthmelon Industrial Estate, and as indicated in the report of the Housing Delivery and Strategic Asset Management, Olivia. And could I just point out, this is not approval of the actual sale per se, but is for the initiation of the sales process in accordance with the Council's acquisition and disposals policy. So hand you over to the officer.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm presenting the report disposal of plots 19 and 20 Porthmelon Industrial Estate. The existing tenant has expressed an interest in the purchase of the land. The buildings on the site are the tenants. This asset has been assessed against the criteria in our strategic asset management plan and the Council's acquisition and disposals policy, and is being recommended for disposal. The rationale is set out in the report. We've had an independent valuation of the site, and the tenant has offered the full market value of £40,600. This one-off capital receipt has to be weighed against the loss of rental income of just under £2,000 per annum. However, there are limited development opportunities on the industrial estate given its location in the flood zone, the mixture of tenures and ownership, and the constraints on the council's budget. The sale will also give greater economic certainty to an important local business, and therefore we would recommend the property for disposal.
Thank you very much, Olivia. Any comments on that, Councillor Dean?
Just it's pretty straightforward. So I'll propose the recommendation.
Councillor Sims?
Yeah, I'm happy to query it. Just one point, it does say in paragraph 9 that the current rental value for the land is 1,980. I'm not really querying that, but I would say that the place next door, it's the upper story is 470 a month. It just seems to be quite a lot of difference. So I just wondered how the actual rental values ascertained. If it's a long explanation, I'm happy to forgo it.
Yeah, so the rental values are done by an independent surveyor. So it used to be the district valuer, of course, and each valuation is dependent on the size of the site, the length of the lease, the previous rentals, etc. So each site is unique in its own way, but it's independently calculated, and that advice is received from us for each of these proposals for sale.
Well, we have the proposer for that. Any more comments before? Oh, it's Councillor Legg.
I'm just checking that everyone else can see this light. Yeah. Yeah. So the industrial estate is employment land, and I take it that any change of use would have to come to planning.
Yes, that is my understanding.
Lisa, can you answer that question, please, if you're still there?
Toby's got a question.
I'm still here. Yeah, so if you are proposing a change of use that is not permitted, then yeah, it would need to come to planning for that.
I'm happy to second the recommendation.
Well, we have a proposer and a seconder.
Toby, we've got Toby.
Oh, Councillor Dugan, Tobin Dugan.
Thank you. Yeah, over the last 4 years, I've seen a lot of capital assets being sold off by the council, which is a bit concerning. The capital receipts from sales of properties is obviously welcome for the meagre bank balance, but this means that we're going to have a diminishing income in the future regarding rents. Now, is this a policy which is going to continue? Because but the question is, if it does continue, will this mean that the public will have to pay higher council taxes because of the council's reduced income through selling off capital assets?
Thank you, Chairman. So we've had just 2 approvals from council, 3 approvals from council for the sale of properties so far. The old fire station, Unit 13 on Porthmelon Industrial Estate and Jerusalem Terrace. This would be the 4th. In each and every case, we take account of the strategic asset management plan, which sets out the framework for decision making, which helps us go through a criteria by which we can make a reasoned decision in balancing whether that's a strategic asset or not, whether that's an ongoing liability to the council. So when we lose rental income, what we're looking at is what is our liability for that building as we move forward. And of course, we have to pay for the management of either the building or the land. So we have to take off our management costs from that. And often that's cost neutral. And then if you add on to that any potential liability for future maintenance and repair, often the balance goes into sale rather than retain. So it would depend on the type of land and buildings, the age of those buildings and the length of the lease as to whether that decision is for sale or not. And that's why each report that comes to council is slightly different, because those factors have to be weighed up for each unique location. So the answer is there's been 4, this is the 4th one so far. That won't result in a significant loss of rental income to the council, because the liability costs associated with maintaining that relationship with those tenants and maintaining those buildings or land. So it's a cost neutral position. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Okay, we have a proposer and a seconder for this recommendation. All those in favour? That's passed unanimously.
I would like to register my abstention, please, Chair.
Sorry, I missed that.
1 abstention.
Oh, okay, yes, with 1 abstention, it was NEMCOM. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. Moving on, colleagues, to agenda item 10, transport monitoring. The report is in the hands of the Chief Executive and the 151 officer. Thank you.
Sorry about that, the microphone is not working yet. Today we've brought the transport monitoring report to you. There was a question raised by Councillor Marcus at the last meeting, and we said we'd bring this report to the next council meeting. I think the question was about bringing the Q3 monitoring report. We have managed now to add Q4 into that report as well, and you've got a full year there. As I've said in previous meetings, we are now in a position where one of the operators is declining to pass the information over to us due to the fact that they deem that to be commercially confidential. So you will see that there are gaps in the report, but you'll see that every bit of information that we can get easily from the public, from public records, is included in there for you. The majority of it is around the airport, and it also has the early part of the year when we did obtain the information around the sea activities from boating, etc. But as I said, since then we haven't been able to get the information from the operators. The recommendation is that we note the report and submit the annual monitoring report to the government's MHCLG and the Department of Transport to keep transport on their radar as an issue for the islands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ashman. Would anyone have any comments, please? Councillor Marcus.
Since I asked the question, thank you for getting this report to us. Just a question about the stance of the operator that's not releasing the figures to us. If a member of the public was to collate those figures and publish them, would that be an issue? Are those figures FOIable or?
Obviously, the information held by the operator themselves is not FOIable because they're not within. They're a private operator. The organisation that may hold the data, which would be the harbour operator, there is a question mark of whether this is or is not FOIable data. So if a member of the public, it wouldn't be the council doesn't hold the data. The data that's any of the data the council holds, we've put into the report. It's data held by a third party, and whether that third party is subject to FOI, we would have to take legal advice, and there would probably be a challenge from the operator. So at the moment, that is why we've not progressed it any further.
Okay, seems petty. In terms of recommendation number 2, when we submit the data to the government, what happens to that data?
It's not a statutory submission in any way, shape or form. It's just a way of us keeping the government aware of our transport and the challenges we have with our transport. As you know, that we are lobbying government at every opportunity about our transport situation, both between the islands and the mainland and the inter-island activity as well. And this is just another way to keep that at the top of their agenda by sending this return in to say that we are monitoring it. We are, as a council, aware of our transport operations, and please, can you also be aware?
Councillor Watt.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just a comment on paragraph 2, when it says this, excuse me, this was the first time this data has been drawn together and presented in one place. That's actually true to an extent, although just to remind members, when I was tourism officer, I used to put together an annual report on the number of visitors and the ways in which they came into the islands. However, it didn't include freight, and it also didn't include the complete year. So yes, in essence, it is true. It is the first time the whole picture has been drawn together.
Thank you. Councillor Sims.
Just saying, I welcome this because at some point we will, I hope, have the opportunity to another ask into government regarding transport, because it still remains our biggest issues, particularly not just the mainland, but in particular getting back and forth for the off islands. It's becoming a real burden to people, and if we haven't got a comprehensive data set, then we haven't got an answer. So I really welcome this. It's really important. Thank you. And I'm happy to propose both recommendations.
Councillor, thank you. Councillor Williams.
Yeah, thank you. I just found the presentation a bit dull and uninspiring, if I'm being honest. I thought a few graphs and charts may have just given it a bit more life. It just seemed lots of tables, some of which don't really tell us a great deal. So if I'm being negative, I just think a bit more inspiring in terms of its layout and how it's presented to us. I think we need to work on the spelling of GU. That doesn't sort of that's a bit inconsistent how we spell the name of one of our islands and one of our boats. And I think the new council just has to get to grips, doesn't it? I guess we've got to be careful what we say politically, but if we see transport as one of the biggest issues to solve, but we're not really sitting down with the steamship company who are the transport provider, I think we just need I think we need to take a bit of a higher ground and try and reset that relationship, because at the moment we're sort of just going to miss each other. I won't say more than that.
I was just wondering whether the Chief Executive would like to respond to your comments.
In terms of the presentation, we'll take that away, but I'm sure we can make it look better with some graphs, etc. going forward. As we can with a lot of the performance data that we report to members, I think it does need a rethink. And in terms of working with the steamship company, I would say that we are working with the managing director of the steamship company and the managing director of Skybus. I meet them on a regular basis. We have discussions on what we're both doing. So there is open conversation behind, it's not in the public arena, but it is happening. So I think give you some assurance that maybe it needs to be upped slightly, but it certainly is. There is some activity happening. We have, I say, discussions with them as an operator on a regular basis. What we probably don't have is discussions more generally, maybe about our plans for the sea route, etc. A lot of our discussions around air and stuff because of our airport. Being the owner of the airport, but yeah, discussions are ongoing I meet them every 2 weeks.
Thank you very much. Has anyone any other comments before we move to the recommendations? In that event, as we've had comment on both recommendations, I think I'll take them separately, please, colleagues. So recommendation 1 is that members note the data collected by the council relating to the Isles of Scilly transport links for the period April 24 to March 25, set out in the annual monitoring report, a copy of which is attached to Appendix A. Can I have a proposer to accept that first recommendation, please? Councillor Sims.
I've proposed both already, but I'm happy to propose again.
And I believe seconded by Councillor Mumford. So if we take recommendation 1 first, please. All those in favour? That is unanimous, thank you. Moving on to recommendation 2, that members approve the submission of the annual monitoring report to the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government and the Department of Transport for information. Councillor Sims, can you confirm that you also
Yes.
propose that recommendation? Thank you. And Councillor Mumford, did you second that one as well? Thank you very much. All those in favour of recommendation 2? That is also unanimous. Thank you. That brings us to the end of the agenda items. It is now 10:10, so I'll close the meeting, but I'd just like to give my thanks to the officers and colleagues at the end of this meeting, as it is the last formal meeting of this council term, and to send everyone my very best Easter greetings. Thank you.